What's going on, y'all? Attorney Tom here with day 5 of the Tim Heidecker trial. To recap, anybody who might be new here, Tim is charged with felony murder, 20 counts of felony murder. For felony murder, you do not need intent to kill. Essentially, the deaths happened in the course and scope of a dangerous or enumerated felony. Here, the felony alleged is Tim selling a vape device. And if you recall from the day 4 reaction video, Tim has left us on a cliffhanger about where Star Trek was filmed.
Has said a number of untruths today in his testimony, and that will be proven without a shadow of a doubt tomorrow in court. So stay tuned for that.
So apparently that is relevant to his murder trial, but we're going to find out. Let's jump right into it.
I would like to call my first witness for the defense for the day is acclaimed cinema screenwriter and film director Nicholas Meyer.
I co-wrote and directed Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I co-wrote and directed Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
At this point, the prosecution should be objecting to relevance. I don't even know, I have no idea where this is going.
And I co-wrote but did not direct Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, which was directed by Leonard Nimoy.
When you say home in that title, what does home refer to?
Earth.
Okay, Earth. So the Star Trek gang is out in space and their voyage.
I think Tim's suits have gotten baggier and baggier every single day. Come on, Tim. You're on trial, man. You gotta look your best. You gotta look sharp.
In that episode, in that movie, is to Earth.
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, though, is there a location in that film where...
San Francisco. They go to San Francisco. No. The crew of the Enterprise returns to Earth seeking the help of humpback whales to answer a probe from outer space with a matching signal.
In Star Trek II.
Mr. Tarkington, one warning and one warning only. One more outburst, and you will be dismissed from this courtroom.
You also directed and wrote Star Trek II.
Yes?
Does any of that movie take place in San Francisco?
Yes, there are actually a couple of scenes that are set in San Francisco. They weren't filmed there, but the Starfleet Academy, the simulator room, those were intended to be San Francisco, and Kirk's apartment overlooks San Francisco Bay. It's a set.
Hold on.
That's what I've been saying.
No.
Mr. Tarkington.
What the hell is this? I'm speechless.
Chen.
San Francisco.
Can we...
Star Trek 2.
Star Trek II, the plot... You would not classify the plot of Star Trek II as being set in San Francisco.
No, what I said were that there were a couple of scenes in the movie that were set but not filmed in San Francisco.
If you were asked, a man on the street, which episode, which Star Trek...
The 20 victims who died at the festival age ranged 16 to 39, and Tim is spending his defense asking about Star Trek. What I think maybe he's trying to do is discredit the testimony of that guy who's just kicked out of the courtroom, saying he's not credible because he lied about the Star Trek thing. But I wouldn't put too much credibility on somebody's movie opinions with respect to character evidence in a murder trial.
Movie takes place in San Francisco. Your answer would be?
Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home.
Thank you. No further...
When did you first meet the defendant, Tim Heidecker?
I met him this morning, but I got a call from him around 10:30 last night.
What did he offer to pay you?
$10,000.
I have no further questions.
I have a right to call expert witnesses and pay them whatever I want. Thank you.
You do have a right to call expert witnesses, and the important thing to note about expert witnesses, people, is these are people who are allowed to give their opinion. Now, this is different from character evidence. Expert witnesses are allowed to give their opinions on matters that they didn't experience firsthand. For instance, in my line of work, experts that we call fairly regularly when we have to go to court are accident reconstructionists. Now, these accident reconstructionists weren't there at the time of the incident, but because of their expertise and their knowledge, they are able to recreate and create simulations of what actually took place. And we can use that, and then they can use their opinion to testify on what they believe happened. So it is their opinion, which they are allowed to give because they are experts. And yes, you pay them, and they are very expensive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meyer. This is unbelievably generous.
One and only Manuel.
Manuel?
Sissy.
What is it? How do you say your last name again?
Sissy?
Chusi, yeah. That's my brother.
You'll be all right.
That's totally inappropriate.
All right, get up there.
I mean, this sounds like a joke. I mean, there is one thing that I know for sure that Tim could never do, and it's like do something bad to his fan. I mean, they mean the world to him. So I don't know what this thing is all about.
This more.
Remember, felony murder doesn't require intent. Even if he didn't intend to kill those 20 people, he committed the underlying felony, or allegedly committed the underlying felony. And if that is proved, then he committed felony murder. This is not regular murder. This is felony murder. No intent is required.
Morning. You confided something in me, some secret that you've been holding in.
Yes. I met Dr. Sen the night that he hanged himself. He handed me a letter.
He handed you a letter.
Yes, he did.
And let me just state this. This is news to me. I think it's news to everybody here. Because you told me this when?
No.
This morning, yeah. This morning.
This morning. I, Dr. Sen, am only one responsible for all the death from the Electric Sun 20. It is all my fault. Tim Heidecker is innocent and is too busy writing and producing its song with Decker and DKR, as well as its show Decker. Signed, Dr. Sen.
Signed, Dr. Sen.
Tim, acquit him. He's innocent. Clearly no foul play was involved. Good job, Tim. Way to find that rare smoking gun piece of evidence, which I'm sure is totally legit.
Thank you.
Do you consider yourself to be a devout Roman Catholic?
Yes.
I have one question for you. Who wrote the letter? I want to remind you that a few minutes ago, you took an oath and you swore before God that you would tell the truth. I'm going to ask you now one more time. Who wrote the letter? Please answer the question, sir.
Tim gave it to me this morning.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
Both the people and the defense have presented their evidence. At this point, both the people and the defense are entitled to give you closing arguments.
The Electric 20.
Now we're into closing arguments. In closing arguments, you can be argumentative. So you can make your point. You can go further beyond by just stating what you believe the evidence will prove. You can tie everything together that you have presented in the case. Tim is
Kids from our community who were killed by this individual. In my 30 years as a prosecutor for San Bernardino County, I have never seen such a heinous crime and such a tragedy. My heart bleeds for these people. Luther Sanchez, Dr. San. What a joke. Didn't even have a medical degree, no medical background whatsoever. Conspired with this individual to manufacture, market, and produce these vape pens, which the medical examiner of San Bernardino County testified contain toxic chemicals. Chemicals that were found in the body of not one, not two, not three, not four, but all of these kids. Please. See that justice is done. Convict this individual. And God will smile upon you. I thank you for your time.
I'm not.
All right. Dude, this is pretty realistic for a TV show. That was good. That was a good A+. Now let's watch Tim.
A guy that likes to lay blame quickly and haphazardly. I do want to just say I've been a couple days here this week. I brought in a can of Sprite, and the reason I did that was I'm trying not to drink coffee, and I thought that the Sprite would give me a little pep, a little caffeine. And on the fourth day or something, somebody says, "Hey, you know the Sprite's caffeine free," so. That didn't work, and so if you saw me sort of nodding off or anything, I should have gone with Coke, which has caffeine. We have heroin in the blood of one of our. Is he still in here? No. We had some people out of that 20 who didn't even die from the vape pen. So that opens the question: did anybody die from the vape pen? That's sort of our first question mark, and we'll just put question mark.
It's important to note that Tim is being charged on 20 different counts. So even if he's acquitted on 19 counts, if he's found guilty on just one account, it is still felony murder and he's going to jail for a very long time.
They don't have the answers. I don't have the answers. They are the ones responsible for answering these questions. They're not asking the question, what is the China connection? What connects these chemicals from Shanghai, from K2, one of the star performers, who is sworn testimony confirms that I don't have his testimony in front of me right here, but the gist of the confession is he had a good time. Or we have Dr. Sand's confession. Why does a person kill themselves, right? A lot of people are depressed, a lot of people have bad relationships and they just feel like there's no point. But some people kill themselves because they know they did something so wrong that they can't live with themselves. And that's the case of Dr. Sand. And we have his letter, which is up for dispute. That's for you guys. You guys are smart. You can figure it out. Some people think my friend Manuel made it up. I don't. I happen to believe my friend.
Your friend literally told the jury that you handed him the letter. He should probably be guilty of perjury, and Tim probably should be held in contempt again for tampering with evidence. Don't fire your lawyer, people. This all went downhill after Tim fired his lawyer on the first day.
We have the testimony of one of the great directors of all time. He's up there with Hitchcock and the rest, directing Star Trek II, confirming that the testimony of Mr. Turkington was nothing but a bunch of baloney. That Mr. Turkington has no expertise, so anything he says in this courtroom, and he said a lot, should be thrown out with the
Except he wasn't called to the stand as an expert on Star Trek. He was called to the stand as an expert. One more time. But Mr. Tarkington wasn't called to the stand to be an expert on Star Trek. And this trial isn't about Star Trek. It was about his first-hand accounts and experiences with you, Tim. So, ridiculous.
Baby with the don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But in this case, his testimony was, what is my relationship to the events of that night? I was playing music, something I love. You know, we already have testimony that it was being played all night. Empty bottle, empty bottle, empty bottle, empty bottle. Just a man at the scene of the crime. It was just a man at the scene of the crime. A little bit like Mark Pryor. Who was there? Just a man at the scene of the crime. Is Mark Pryor on trial?
He's dead. He's dead. He's trying to play the dead guy now. Oh, Tim.
He comes up. I said, hey, can I help you? He says, I just want to thank you for throwing this festival. And if anything should happen to me, I can tell by the way you're behaving today, by the way you've handled things so far, is that it could never have been you. And that's sworn testimony. That's from my memory. I'm on the record now. And he said, but if something does happen to me,
You're in closing arguments. You can't submit new evidence. This should have been submitted during the trial, Tim. Also, it is not just testimony. It's for the jury to give the credibility to that testimony. And you have demonstrated that you are not worthy of credibility. So even though you said it, nobody's going to believe you.
I want you to use my memory to start to do something good, do something positive. And that's, like I said, I want to start the Electric Sun 20 Music Foundation. I am so humbled to be able to present my case to you, and I'm confident that you'll make the right choice. Find me innocent on all accounts. Let me get back to doing the good work that I've been put on this planet.
You are not found innocent. It's either guilty or not guilty. You don't need to prove your innocence. What Tim said at the very beginning of his opening argument or closing argument was correct. It's up for the prosecution to prove every element beyond a reasonable doubt. It's their burden to prove. It's guilty and not guilty or innocent. And also, he shouldn't be leaning on this podium. It's not a good look. But, you know, it's Tim Heidecker.
To do by God. And one more time for Judge.
This case is now in your hands. Let me remind you, the burden is on the prosecution, on the people, to prove every element of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt.
See? Look at that.
That was one thing I wanted to add.
Mr. Heidecker,
I'm sorry, but
Mr. Heidecker, you're done.
Thank you.
I will now excuse you to the jury room. We are in recess.
If this was real life, this jury would deliberate for the total of 30 seconds and then come back in the courtroom with a guilty verdict. But we're gonna wait to find out and see what happens. Alright, y'all, thank you so much for watching. This was a ton of fun. This whole trial has been a ton of fun because it's been funny, but there are things I think we could actually learn from this trial because it is semi-realistic. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have. Remember, ask any comments, questions, concerns down below in the bottom. Hit that like button. It really helps push out this video. And consider subscribing to this channel if you want to be a part of this community. Alright, y'all. Thanks again so much. See you later.